Aloha guys, Molly here from Discover the Big Island Real Estate. I am here with Chris and my beautiful referral partner Michael, and we're going to be talking about moving to Ainaloa. Chris has moved from Vail, Colorado to the island, and we're going to be talking about how the transition was for him. We're going to be talking about cost of living from his perspective. We're going to be talking about job opportunities that were presented for him here on the island as well, the climate from his perspective, the amenities or the things that he has explored in the neighborhood. So it's going to be a super exciting interview. If you have any questions for us, feel free to comment and let us know that you're here. I see, people signing on right now, so I'm super excited to talk to you. If you have any questions, I'll make sure to answer. But Chris, welcome. We're so excited to have you, my friend.
So good to finally be here.
You got the Hawaiian tan, you got, the Hawaiian glow. So we are super excited to hear and share your stories with the audience. A lot of people daydream about being in your position of just being here in paradise. So how was the transition from Vail, which has a very different weather than Hawaii, right, to
Oh yeah.
here?
Well, it took a little bit. I sold my last place in beginning of December, and then traveled across to New Hampshire to see my mom for Christmas and stuff. And so I went through some pretty interesting storms and some pretty cold weather, and and then next thing you're on an airplane and you hit here, and it was great. I mean, for me it was like rolling into summer, kind of endless summer.
Right.
And in that particular time I got here, I think I got here around the middle of January, and we were in a little bit of a drought. So the rain wasn't really hammering or anything on this side of the island, and it was nice. I mean, it was literally going into summertime for me. It was 75 to 85 probably every day. It was sunny. The humidity wasn't all that bad because the trade winds were going, and then fast forward a month and the rain kicked in and it's still here. So, but that's the east side. And, and that's taken a little bit to get used to. I kind of know what folks in Seattle go through on a regular basis, I guess. And I was marveling to myself yesterday. I went snorkeling and tried spearfishing for the first time. And I was heading out to Hilo, and I had the just regular air in my truck going, and I was going, God, it's a little chilly to be snorkeling. And I flipped over to my thermometer in the truck, and it was 77 degrees. So, so I don't know. I guess I'm starting to climatize.
All right. Right. And it's so easy. I think, that happens so often. So, okay. So you are, let's just try to paint the picture to the audience so that they can kind of like have an idea. So you are in Vail, Colorado, right? And you're exploring Hawaii, you're exploring the Big Island.
Yep.
And what made you explore Ainaloa more in detail, more than any other areas on the island?
Well, I came over a couple years ago. I went to Oahu. I was in the Air Force for 27 years and flown through Hickam and Honolulu probably 300 times in my career. And so I knew Oahu, and I was with a friend of mine, good friend of mine that I was in the military with. And after about a week of getting after it over there, he kind of looked at me and said, dude, with your vibe, I'd check out the Big Island. He was a recruiter over here for a number of years back in the 90s. And I was like, it wasn't even on my radar. And I kind of think I had the thought process that I was going to leave Vail at that point, and I just didn't know where I was going to go. I knew I wanted to get someplace tropical, and Hawaii seemed like a pretty good place because it's always been a happy place for me. And I came over here for 3 days, like literally had the trip booked an hour after he mentioned it, and I flew into Kona. And I kind of had this perception in my mind that the island was one big brown lava field, and I went up to Javi and then went up over the high road, and it was like somebody chucked the Sound of Music movie set up there, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it just kind of got better from there. And then, a couple hours later, I was down in Hilo and tropics and jungle, and it just blew my mind, the topography of the place, the different climates within an hour or two drive, or in some cases I can drive 10 minutes down to HPP if it's raining up here and it's sunny down there. So it always it changes a lot, and it's a super cool place.
Wow. I mean, so it really, once you landed here, you were like, oh my gosh, this is paradise. This is the place
Yeah.
that I want to be. And Michael and I, and all the guests that we've had here, they talk about the island calling them to be
Yeah,
here.
and it did, and it resonated when I was watching your guys's some of the videos you guys have posted in the past, and it did. When I was here for 3 days, I went back to Oahu for I think five after that, and I wish I'd never left here. And I got back to Colorado, and for about 8 months, it was just tattooed on the back of my head. I couldn't get it out of my head, and I was looking at stuff all the time. Every night I'd be looking at, before I met Michael, like Redfin, just oh wow, that place looks cool, yeah, whatever,
Right.
and just trying to do research on the island and try to figure out what was going on over here, and the more I did, the more it kind of made sense that this might be the place. And so fast forward to this past August, I came out for 2 weeks, and I spent a couple of days in each part of the island. I mean, from up in Kohala over to the Waipio Valley, down through here, down to South Point, back over to Kona, a couple places, and it. I kind of got a good feeling, a good vibe for the places that I kind of wanted to be in, and along the way, I met Michael. I met him. We had lunch down here in Pahoa, and we actually saw one place up in Volcano while I was here. I think it was an interview for both ways. Him figuring out if I was serious, and for me figuring out if it was somebody that I could trust to make some good advice. 3,000 miles away, and sight unseen, which was what ended up happening. And so far so good. I mean, I can't. There hadn't been a negative thing I could say about that part of the process.
I think for that, I mean, in shortly, Michael, you can speak on that. Oh, we got a couple likes on that because it's yeah, the trusting process is one that it is not easy at all, right?
Oh,
And we all have different personalities, right? The world is it's full of colorful and beautiful personalities, and I think the trusting process is one of the most delicate, and the one that we take most pride of, Michael and I, when we're welcoming people.
sure.
What made you decide that, and also Michael, what made you decide that you guys were a good match? I mean, perhaps if we see it from Michael's experience and then from your experience.
Sure.
Well, I think from day one, I knew that Chris had a plan and he was going to work his plan. And we've talked about that before. It's making the move here is not impossible if you have a plan. And I could just see immediately he was thinking about all the details, all the things he needed to do to
Mhm.
make this happen.
Yeah.
And I said, he's committed and let's go. And from the time that you went back to Colorado, we just continued that conversation, and he kept me up to date as to where he was in the process with selling his current property, and how we were going to make this work. So that to me was a good sign. It wasn't, oh, maybe I'll come back next
Yeah.
time and I'll think about it a little bit more. It was, no, I'm ready to go, and I'm going back, and this is what I'm going to do. And he did, and he worked that plan. Before we knew it, he was here. So that's good. Welcome.
Thanks, man.
So now, Chris, I mean, and that's so beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing. I think, and when Chris and I connected, I mean, from the brief period that you and I were conversing, I could see that you were very organized. I'm like, oh, this gentleman has a head over his shoulders. He knows exactly. That was a thing that I got on in writing, but
Yeah.
you saw it in person.
Mhm.
Um, so, Chris, from your perspective, what made you say, well, I just met Michael. What was the glue that you put on this?
Well,
working
after
relationship?
watching a half a dozen videos from the past, I kind of felt I knew him a little bit just before I even met him, just kind of his personality and everything else. My dad was a realtor in New Hampshire when he was alive, and I just got the same kind of sense that my dad imparted, that he really cared. He made sure, my dad made sure always his customers had the best experience, and he went above and beyond. And every single person that he placed became a good friend down the road. And I kind of got that vibe from Michael, and that was important to me. And I knew almost immediately that, yeah, this guy's got the best intentions. He's got integrity, and that he wasn't selling stuff just to sell it. And I'm a sales guy, so I mean, I get that. And he was genuine, and that was super important.
I thank you so much for sharing, because it's like it's one thing. I mean, for him and I mean, I love working with him, but I think coming from you, that means a lot. I see Michael smiling, so I'll take it that that comment made him smile. But thank you so much for sharing. So okay, so now you made the connection with somebody that you trust, right? You
Mhm.
had a plan of action. What
Yep.
followed next? How did you decided that Ainaloa was a place of focus, and how long it took you to really focus on the idea of, okay, this is going to be my location, and this is where I'm going to trigger the purchase?
Well, I got back home after that trip, and in August, and it took a couple weeks, but I finally I made the commitment. And I was in kind of it was an employee purchase program through the town of Vail, and I think it was late September, early October. I finally notified them, pulled the trigger, and once I did that, I think that's when Michael and I started kind of really conversing, going back and forth, and everything like that. So my house is on the market. I got to go now. There's just no turning back. Once you make that commitment, I guess I could, but it just, for me, it was, once I made it, it was, we're pressing on. And then it was kind of, it was a little challenging, just because about the time I made the decision, like, there was a month before, there was a ton of inventory, and next thing you know, there was none, or very little anyway. And then I started getting the education on, kind of areas and lava zones, and houses that looked awesome but weren't permitted, or and all kind of just the little idiosyncrasies that you have in Hawaii, that you just don't even think about on the mainland. And that's where Michael's knowledge and kind of passion kind of came through. And it's like, hey, that's a really nice place, but unfortunately not permanent. And
Right,
I really like it though. Good luck
right,
getting a loan, and good luck getting insurance, and all that stuff. So,
right.
or it was in a lava 2 zone, or if it was in some place that, maybe rained more than others, or just was a little further out than I wanted to be. I didn't want to be out in the middle of nowhere. I kind of wanted to be somewhere central, easy to get around. I like being out in the country, sort of in rural, but I don't like, the fact that I got to go an hour and a half just to get to the main road to get to Hilo.
Mhm.
And it was a little bit more in my affordability range. And there was other places I might have considered if they'd have been in the same, but all things considered, I mean, this was the place, or this was the area anyway. And we looked into Volcano, looked up down around here, into HPP a little bit. We saw most of, I think, all of the houses except for one were here in Ainaloa, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Mhm.
and being in Colorado, it's not like I could jump on an airplane and be over here in 2 hours to go check out a house. So Michael was fantastic in going through the house, telling me his thoughts, videoing it, taking pictures. There's a big Google file somewhere with a bunch of the pictures and videos and every place else that we see. I think it was 2 or 3 or 4 places. Each after each one, I was excited. I was like, "Oh yeah, this could work." And I'm doing all the numbers in my head and trying to figure it out. And then the one thing led to another, and then maybe another. I think it kind of was like, well, this place came online, and this piece beat that place. from what I was seeing. And then finally it came to this place that I'm in now. So, I think when I first started, I was like, yeah, that place for, $200,000 that's, it's more than I want to spend, but okay. And then, the next place was
Right.
250 and the next place was three and the next one, it just kept going. And then he made me comfortable with the, kind of just ramping up on kind of expectations and, kind of the benefits of having someplace that, I'm not going to have to spend a whole lot of money on, uh, refurbing the whole inside and, knocking down the walls and whatever. So it was kind of a gradual but good experience getting to where I'm at now.
Right, 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 right. I mean, it's like, and you touched on permitting, which is one item that a lot of people dismiss. They see paradise and then they see these price points on these homes and they're like, oh my gosh, that's such a great deal. And then of course, for us, for Michael and I, we get access to deeper information. So it's always in the private remarks. The, uh, House fully unpermitted. Proceed with
Oh,
caution.
I learned about a lot about tax keys and
Yeah.
Public and all these other websites and the education that I got just from purchasing. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, now at least if I ever do it again, I know what I'm looking for, and I know what I'm willing to put up with, what I'm willing maybe not to deal with, and but yeah, I mean, it just Michael would sit down and I'd be like, "What's going on? It needs a new roof," and it's like it's not as bad as it sounds.
Right.
Things like that. And it was really it was just easy to work with. Mike was super easy to work with.
Oh, Michael.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy that you guys connected and so happy that it gave you the sense of security that you needed when you were transacting from far away. And also sight unseen. Whew. I mean, talk about trust, right?
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes. Michael, do you want to share a little bit of your experience on this transaction?
Well, we, as Chris said, we did go look at a couple other properties, and they were good properties. But I distinctly remember the phone call that I got from you when you found the house that you're now in, and you can talk a little bit more about it, but it the conversation shifted into what the opportunities were for that property, and you
Yeah.
you knew that that was going to be a good fit for you because it would give you, again, the opportunities that you may have not had otherwise if it had just been a single family residence. So,
Oh, for
and
sure.
I knew, I could hear it in your voice, the passion that, even though I haven't seen it, this is really speaking to me, and let's go see it and see what we can do. And it turns out it was the right house for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there was a place on Ohia or something like that we were looking at, and this place kind of came back on the market. It had been on, and they fell out escrow for whatever reason. I still don't know. But I there was this place, and there was two others that were kind of a little out of my comfort zone price wise, and just or one was up in Glenwood or something, and it was just it was a little further out than I wanted to be, but it was a really nice place. And there was one that was there was a FHA takeover or something, and but this place kind of it was the pictures were awesome, the video was pretty cool, and I sat down with my mortgage broker, who's also a close family friend and my dog watcher occasionally when I was out of town in Colorado. And she looked at me. She goes, "You either buy this place or I'm gonna." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And
Right.
we made it work. And when I figured out the person that had it previous to me ran a pretty successful hosted Airbnb bed and breakfast kind of business out of here, and then it had some other attributes to the property that really made sense. And quite frankly, I mean, when you look at the prices that are going right now, I mean, everything's kind of sort of at the bottom of the bubble. And yeah, you pay a little bit more with interest, but you get a really good deal on the house. And
Mm.
hopefully, if interest rates go down in the next 6 months or so, which they should, refinance and it's a couple months of a little bit more pain than I'd like, but at the same time, when it's all said and done this time next year, I'm going to be sitting in a very good place.
Right. But you know what? It also, I mean, yes, financials are very important. But then if you would have waited, right?
This
It,
place would have gone up, and would have been more expensive, and maybe it was out of my reach. So
right, right. Yeah. So that's great that that happened for you. Now that you are fully, you're now a local resident. You're
yep,
Kamine. If you go to Second Save or KTA, you get your Kamine card for sure.
right. Yeah.
Now, how are the job opportunities for you? Because you now had a new opportunity presented, but what is your overall outlook of the job market here on the island?
Um, It depends. For me, I've been an independent contractor. I've worked for myself for the last, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. Going back to work for the man's probably not kind of an option for me right now. But, there are jobs available if you're willing to work. And I think that's like any place on the mainland. There's all kinds of jobs. It's just whether or not you have the ability to do that job, or you just have the wherewithal to go out and work. I mean, so many jobs and so many people without jobs, and so there are jobs here. High paying jobs, that's a little different story. I think I saw in one of your videos, be prepared to, wait out, 6 8 months to get something if you don't come here prepared. Fortunately, I I worked my butt off the last couple of years, so I've got a little bit of savings and things, and things are coming along. I've restarted the Airbnb business that the previous owner had, and I'm just starting to see folks come in. I just actually had somebody check in about 30 minutes ago, and I've also started as a rep for a solar company here in the states. So it's for me, it money's kind of come starting to slowly come back into my life, which is nice. So the bank account's not draining quite as fast, and hopefully this time in by summertime, I'll be back on the role that I was on before I came out here. So
Right. That is so beautiful. I think that's a pretty good local perspective, right? From
yeah.
somebody that just moved here and you're observing, the job market and the opportunities, and God bless that you have found something that was fitting for you. But for a lot of these folks, they have this idea of moving and then they don't have all the pieces together. So I think what will be a tip that you can provide to those people that are trying to see what it is that they can do, where can they look, how did you land into the company that you're in now, or any tips that you can provide to the audience. I think that will be
I mean, if you're a remote worker or something like that, I mean, that's great. Just be aware that there are time differences. So if you're having to get up at, your East Coast time is 7 a.m. for your whatever remote meeting, you're getting up in the middle of the night, to do that. Um, Other than that, I mean, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're anything in the medical field, those jobs are a dime a dozen out here. They're all over the place.
yeah,
And the Big Island, as well as Hawaii in general, is just underserved by specialists and things like that. So if you've got a specialty, if you're a lab tech, or X-ray tech, or whatever, you're not probably going to have a trouble getting a job. Same thing with EMS. I mean, that's well needed out here as well. As far as the you know make sure you just have something before you come out, is what I'd say. Unless, like you said, you got 6 8, like me, I had about 8 months worth of reserves kind of kicking around, and I knew what I was. Once I did what I did to the house, I knew what I was going to have, and I'm still comfortable with where I'm at and everything else. This time next year, if I haven't done a thing, then oh my god, then yeah, we're going to have to figure something else out. But I've always been pretty resilient as far as figuring out what I'm going to go do, and things generally tend to work out. So,
right.
which is kind of nice. but don't count on that. It's come here prepared. If you show up here and you get $6,000 in the bank, you're going to be leaving next month. So
Okay, great advice. That's very sound advice because you can only survive off papayas just for a little bit, not too long. Right? Or no?
you,
Yeah.
you think the pineapples would be a little cheaper here
Uh,
too? You never.
no, 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 no. Papaya. I mean, no. Even papayas, they're kind of expensive. They're kind of pricey. That's kind of like a delicacy here. So, I mean, so what will be the next most inexpensive fruit? I guess. Jeez,
Yeah.
everything
Oh,
is. Yeah, you
banana
see, we're all
apple.
brainstorming. It's everything is pricey, right?
Yeah, it really is. Coming from Vail, I didn't have the sticker shock that, say, somebody from, I don't know, Kansas or something would have. If you come in from a place where you're paying, $300 a month rent, if that still is a thing, um, you're going to have a little bit of sticker shock. It just, for me, I think the biggest thing would probably be the gas. That's the only thing that I wasn't
Yeah.
used to. I mean, the last tank of gas I got before I went into California, I think I paid, it was right around 205 or something like that in the middle of Nevada. And then of course California, that's a whole another animal. But you're paying close to between $4 and $5 a gallon. I paid 4.49 the other day, and I was like, yeah, deal. And and so it was. So um, that's expensive. Things that you might think are cheap here, are expensive, and other things are not so bad. I'm probably not going to eat a whole lot of steaks over here, but you can go to KTA and get phenomenal, fresh, delicious ahi, ono, mahi mahi, and other things as they kind of pop up onto the dock. They're less than a day old, and you've got the freshest fish that I've had since I lived in New Hampshire. Um, so things like that. Farmers markets, you can find deals. You just got to kind of look around. Um, and we're not far, like where I live in Ainaloa. I'm like not far from the main road. I mean, I get on it, and as long as it's light traffic, 20 25 minutes, I'm into Hilo. And you've got KTA, you got Target, you got Walmart, you got Foodland. I mean, there's a bunch of stores. There's kind of a Costco knockoff here too. I think Cashew Lust or something like that. And so you just got to kind of search around and figure it out. I bought some of the best Ono, which for mainland, that's Wahoo. Down by Kalapana, it was $20 for a 3 pound bag. It was huge. I ate it all week, and some of the best fish I've ever had. So
Wow.
it just kind of depends on what you're wanting to spend, and if you're willing to look around for it, or or if you care. So
Right. 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 That's the key word right there.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that for somebody that, is just so unfamiliar with how that works. As far as the location that you have moved in, how has the weather been? If you were to describe it to somebody that is just unfamiliar with Ainaloa, how is it for you?
So Ainaloa, it's in the township of Pahoa. So if you're looking on the map, we're 3 miles up the street towards Hilo. And when I first got here, we went through about a month of sunny, very little rain. It was a couple little a day or two here and there. And then, like I said, about a month, 5 weeks ago or so, I think we went into rainy season, and so it's been quite wet. But it's not like a kind of a Pacific Northwest wet. You can actually do stuff. Like I was out in the rain cleaning my gutters, this morning, and it was pouring out rain. I'm like, all right, it's helping me clean the gutters out. This is cool. And, stuff like that. So, I mean, you just got to learn to work in it, work around it. If it's a torrential downpour, I might hold off, to mowing the lawn. But, it's not, like I said, it's not a dark, dreary, kind of Pacific Northwest kind of thing. It's the sun will come out, it'll get warm, it'll dry off, and then it rains again. It's just one of those kind of things. It's yeah. For
So
anybody in the
so
military
so
who's
when
been to Guam, it's kind of like you get Guamed on. If you that'll make sense to somebody. So
Right. Michael, I'm curious when Chris was exploring this area, how did you convey the weather to him? How was that conversation I'm pretty sure you asked about how the weather is and all.
We did, and I think he kind of hit it spot on. Of it could be raining at his house, but not at my house, and
Right.
we're not too far from each other at this point in time. So,
Right.
some places you were looking at were a little bit higher in elevation, and they did get more rain, and
yeah,
they were a little bit more remote too, and that kind of spoke to when we talked that you just didn't want to be isolated. So
Right.
this area would be good because there's activity, there's people, you see them. But as far as the weather, we were just I think I was just clear with him that you just don't know what's going to happen. Um,
yeah. Well, the day we met, I came down from Hanukkah, and
Mm.
I woke up to a beautiful sunrise, a couple macadamia nuts hitting the glamping tent that I was staying in, pigs all around, and then as I drove towards Hilo, I got wetter and wetter and wetter, and it was pouring in Hilo, and then I came out to Ainaloa to Pahoa to meet Michael, and it went from rain to sun to rain to just kind of overcast by the time I got here, and then I think it was the next day we went up to Volcano, and we saw a place and it was nice up there. And then I went over the hill, and you just get over that part like where the golf course is, and you go from whatever it's doing over here to a completely different weather pattern. So drive a half an hour, go back into the sunshine if you're sick of the
right,
rain. So
right.
Right.
you know,
That's, yeah, I mean, and there's no way to describe it. I mean, you can explain to people how it is and the microclimates and how fast, the environment changes, but it's not until you're here that you kind of like see it all
Hmm.
and,
yeah.
see it all change, right?
Well,
Now,
I guess the way I put it to people that don't know, you could be over on Kona side at a white sand beach, coconut. Go up over the high road to get to some, like, the greenest pastures you've ever seen. It's kind of like being in Austria. Then
right,
you go drive up Mauna Kea, and it snowed the night before, and there's snow, and then you drive back down into Hilo. You get into kind of the rain and the humidity and the jungle, and go have dinner in the jungle, and and then there's Savannah, like grasslands, on the north and south. It's pretty cool. It's just the you don't like it, wait 5 minutes or drive 30 miles. It's going to change.
right. That's so, so true. Because that happens to us in Kona. In Kona, whenever it gets gloomy out here, we just drive up Waikoloa.
Yeah,
We get a completely different weather.
yeah.
So, what about the internet connectivity? How has been your experience with internet? What type of service did you end up getting?
I ended just at I went with Spectrum because that's what the person had before me.
Cool.
It's not bad. It's $49 a month. I get over 100 megs or whatever it is, and yeah, I mean, I so far so good. I haven't had anything drop off. I got brand new equipment when I got it. I had T-Mobile, just kind of the 5G server back in Vail, and that served me fine. T-Mobile doesn't work quite as good down here. So if you're coming to the Big Island, I would probably say if you have a choice, Verizon would probably be the one to go if you had, at least on this side of the island. I'm not sure about Kona side. And it's crazy. I still have T-Mobile on my phone. I go outside on the porch. The lanai, and I get 3 bars. I come in the house because of the metal roof, and I've got like -2. So it's where the towers are placed, and whatever. But Verizon tends to be, seems like that's the one to have if you're going to have something.
Right. Well, thank you for adding to that comment because it's one of the uh, I want to say the number one question that we get, right? Internet. It's like we're all glued to the internet for work purposes or personal reasons. The internet is, that's how we are
Well,
all wired.
I think just prior to, well, I did Spectrum, and like 3 or 4 days later, the guys from Hawaii Telecom were wrapping fiber optics up the line. So I know that at least in most of Ainaloa, that Hawaiian Telecom's here too, and so they've got super high speed stuff. So I think we're out of the dark ages here.
Right. Well, now, Chris, now that you
AOL
wired,
dial-up,
you got, huh?
AOL dial-up.
Right. Well, now that you are all wired, all hooked up onto the internet, Michael, how was the conversation with Chris in regards to painting the community scene? And what options did he recommend when you guys were first conversing about, things for him to consider as far as being more melted with the community?
It's interesting you say that. So Chris arrived one night. He got here. His dog was coming a few weeks later. Had him over to the house for dinner and got to talk a little bit. And I think by the time we had even met, you had already made connections with folks and had already made plans, which just it really warmed my heart to know that that you had reached out to people and you were already actively doing something. And that was with the group that was doing the paddling with the kids that needed special needs and things like that, which was a passion of yours to begin with. And we had talked about that prior. And I said, there's a need for that. I know that it exists. Talk about the plan. He went out and found it before I even knew it. I'm like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to get together? Oh, I'm already going down here. I've got an event that I'm doing all day long. I'm like, that's wonderful. That to me is what I expect, and I want people to experience that because it was a fear of mine myself. I thought, oh, I'm going to come here and I'm just going to be in my house and I'm not going to know anybody, and what am I going to do? And there are so many opportunities. You just have to seek them out, and that's one of the things that Chris did. And I think it, it will be very helpful for him moving forward because now he's sitting on, as he explained to us before, that he's involved with other organizations already. And it's been, you purchased the house in January,
Yeah,
you
about
know,
2.5 months ago now.
so
Yeah,
that's
no,
amazing.
it's been great. Yeah, it's still slow coming. I don't have people pounding on my door saying, "Hey, you want to have a beer?" Quite yet, but I'm getting there. And but I volunteered with an outrigger paddling crew here in Hilo that, like Michael said, uh, gives back to special needs kids and adults that are local here. I've also joined the VFW. So if you're a veteran of foreign wars coming, here in Pahoa, we actually have a post, which is kind of rare out here, right here in Pahoa, and it's 3830. And then when I came out last August, I got turned on to a group. It was a Facebook group called Mental Restorations Foundation, and fast forward to till now, I joined the group, gotten involved, and it's vets and first responders helping other vets and first responders, whether it's helping you get your car out of a ditch or talking through some pretty bad times. So and anything in between. We go fishing, we go. We're going out over Memorial Day weekend over to Kona side with Kona style, and we're going to be out doing some snorkeling and manta ray diving and stuff. So I mean, it's just getting into those communities, which I found lacking actually in Colorado. There didn't seem to be a whole lot of veterans and things like that. Now on the adaptive sports side, yeah, the mainland definitely has an edge over here, and that's kind of one of my thought processes going forward. And one of my goals is to either become a member of or create something that's offering sports recreation for both locals and destination travelers with disabilities. So that's kind of the long term goal anyway.
And I think it's like you're starting to root yourself right into the island. You're
Yeah.
starting to create those connections. You have already built community. You're building even more. And geez, I mean, Chris, I wanted to thank you so, so much for all the knowledge that you have shared. If you were to, and you have a business, you have an STVR. Do you want to share with the community what it is and perhaps provide more information so they can be able to find you
Sure,
and
sure.
book with you?
Yeah, so I basically it's a hosted short-term rental or Airbnb or however you want to term it. And what I have is over 1,273 square foot home share essentially.
Wow.
Uh, and so it's there's two rooms that are available. They range anywhere from depending on the website and kind of the time of year, $60 to $90 a night. And you can find me on Airbnb, booking.com, and Expedia right now. And it's all Big Island Getaway. And I can provide links for, we can slap down on the notes down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and it just depends. There's a few discounts and things if you book early and or come stay longer and things like that. So
Right. Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Well, if you guys connected, I mean, if you guys are watching and you guys are vibing with Chris, and if you want to get to know him more in detail, you guys can definitely book an accommodation in his beautiful home on the east side. And Chris, you also, if you're wanting to invite the community for your solar services, how can people connect with you there?
let's see. So I started repping for a company called Sunrun, and they're the largest solar provider in the United States and here in Hawaii. And no high pressure sales, no gimmicks, no hidden fees or anything like that. We're trying to revolutionized the solar business as a service. So kind of like a utility, so to speak, but where you're saving a whole lot of money over what you'd be paying, Hawaiian Electric Company, and locking in those rates for 25 years. So if your rate's $150 today, in 25 years, it's going to be $150. Where you're probably going to spend $1,050, and with the other guys. But want to kind of get you the information that you might need to make an informed decision, and see if it's right for you, and to see if your home is a right fit as well, because there is some considerations as far as if you're in the middle of the jungle and you don't get sunlight, solar is kind of tough. If you've got there's aspects of the roof that you need to consider and things like that. And then just we go in, we once we've kind of got an initial deal set. We bring inspectors over to your home at no charge, and we get guys up there that are going to look at your roof, look at the structure, look at your electrical system to make sure that's all good to go. And if it's not, at least you know what you need to do. We partner with construction companies and electricians and things, and that will give you considerable savings. And then at the end of the day, if you go with one of our kind of lease packages, there's no money up front. There's no money out of pocket until you flip the switch and you move from us or from OCO to us, and then you just start paying a low monthly fee. So it seems pretty a pretty good deal if you ask me. And I mean, I'm putting it on my roof, so
You have it, you're selling
yep,
it.
exactly.
So, right. Well, I thank you so much for sharing. Michael, do you have any final words for the audience? Any highs or any tips?
Well, I'd say if you're planning a trip to come out here to look at properties, we have a place for you to stay.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
It's
you
just right down
do.
the street from my house, and that's been a joy just to see Chris flourish here with his wonderful dog Roxy. She's super cute and very friendly. I got to visit with him yesterday when I was finishing up some exercise on my way home. So
That's
that
Well,
usually
let
when I
me
see
tell
Michael
you, um,
running that way, running that way, riding his bike. So
guys, also know that if you get to connect with Michael, he's extremely sporty. I mean, is this gentleman, wow. I mean, yeah, so you have great relationships. So whoever is watching, feel free to drop us a note, let us know how we can be of service. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story with others, and we wish you continuing success with your move to the island. And we hope that your business continues to boom on your photovoltaic business and also the hosted vacation rentals.
appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's been great, and it's been great dealing with you, Molly. We still got to go get that mai tai. Maybe I'll be
Yes.
tomorrow.
We
And
have a Mai Tai pending. Mai Tais,
yeah,
yes.
and Michael, like I said, it's it's I couldn't have done this without you, man. Thanks.
Oh,
It's
It was my pleasure, and I'm glad you're here.
thanks. I'm
we
glad you're here.
We so much appreciate you, Chris. Jeff Scott, Jeff, I would love to know where you're from, but he says Mahalo. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you are wanting to connect with us, you have all of our information. But I'm going to, at the end of this video, I'm going to be linking Chris's information, whatever he wants to share with the public as far as his two businesses, and now you have a way to connect with him. All
Awesome.
right, guys. Well, wishing you a lot of success, and we'll see you on the next one, Chris.
Hello, I'm Mahalo, and yeah, stoked to be here.
All right. Aloha, guys.
Aloha.